This is family, you know. I left for Oklahoma last July, I think it was, and I was here for 7 months, only 7 months. I just fell in love with all you people here, and I just miss you guys. And I have a pastor. This is my pastor here. I go to a big church. The pastor has no idea that I'm here. You know, this pastor knows wherever I go. She knows wherever I'm at. She's praying for me all the time. And we keep in communication because this is my pastor and this is my home church. God has me out in the field doing whatever He wants me to do. God, just send me there and I'll do it. And I was in Europe, and I got back in Europe, and I went to Virginia, and I'm flying from here to Washington, and then back here, and then back to Oklahoma, and then back to Virginia.
Oh, wow.
God got me going, but I don't mind. I really love it. I really love it, truly love it. But anyway, my name is Richard Sotelo Berlanga, and at one time, I was second in command of one of the largest crime families in the state of California. This is my family here. Now this is me right there when I used to have all my hair, used to be good looking. And this is my brother Alfredo, and my cousin Simon. He was the head of the family. And my cousin Carlos, my cousin Charlie, and Rick.
Where are you again? I didn't see.
Okay, I'm right at the very end right there.
Oh, good.
It's all good looking one there. Back in the day.
Oh, you're better looking now.
That picture was taken in 1976 at one of our meetings in Las Vegas, Nevada. That was kind of our hangout there. Nevada, back in the 70s, was ruled by the mafia, the Italian mafia. So we got along great with them. But anyway, originally, I was the black sheep of the family. Because when my brother and my cousins were organizing the family, I was in college earning my degree in administration of justice, and I was working as a sergeant for the California Department of Corrections in Tracy, California. Can you put up the next picture? Now this is Tracy here. And Tracy at that time was one of the worst prisons you could work at because of the inmates that we had. It was, can you put up the next picture? You kind of have to turn your head sideways here. But it says inside the walls of DVI, state's bloodiest prison. And it was the bloodiest prison. We would have about 200 stabbings every year, at least 10 inmates murdered every year, and at least 5 officers stabbed every year. Now, we had 26 officers stabbed in one day in 1968 in a prison riot. And the reason is because all the inmates were between the ages of 18 and 25, and they were all doing life, and they just did not care. You know, we were controlled by the Nostra Familia, the Mexican Mafia, the Aryan Brothers, and the Black Guerrilla family, and they were always at war. And we can turn the next one. Now, these are I used to have over 20 shanks. These are called shanks, these weapons here. And this is a zip gun. That's all I have left is my zip gun. And I want to tell you about this, how they make this. And now I got this, I was shaking down the cell and I found this. And of course, every inmate, that must have been there from the last convict that was in this cell. You know, so you really can't do anything about it. And anyway, can you turn the lights on so you can see this? I want to explain to you how this thing works here. Now this is a zip gun and it's loaded. Now what they do is they get like a tube of Colgate toothpaste because that has a metal tube. And they make this square down here, the handle, and they fill it with matches. They shave the matches and make the powder. And they have a string that goes all the way down to the bottom here. And then the barrel, they have a pencil, and again, they use more of this Colgate toothpaste to make the barrel. And then they get, they would have roll your own cigarettes, and they would have Bugler was the tobacco, and those came with a plastic lid. And they would melt the lid around it to hold it together. And then when you walk, and then for the projectiles, they would get your zipper, the teeth from the zippers, and they would pack them in there. So that when you walk down the tier, they just light the fuse, and this thing is loaded. They would light the fuse, and they would shoot you with it. You know? These guys are very creative. You know? They would take, you had to let them shave, so they would get razor blades, and they would get a bar of soap, and they would put razor blades all over the soap, and as you're walking down the tier, they would throw it at you, and it'd always stick you. No matter which way it hit you, it would stick you. It was a very dangerous job working as a prison guard there at Tracy. But can you put the next picture up? Okay, this is me right here in I worked in what was called, part of the institution is called the hole, which is where you keep the worst of the worst. To get the DVI, you had to kill somebody on the streets. To get to K-Wing, where I work, which is the hole, you had to kill somebody at DVI or some other institution that would send you here. Now, I'm standing there, they took my picture because we were releasing, we had a small yard that the inmates would go and exercise, and there were 24 inmates on this section here where I was at, and we would release 8 at a time. And this is the last section. I was releasing these last 8 inmates to go out to the yard to exercise. And the guy from way at the end there ran over here and stabbed the guy at 217 as he was coming out of his cell. He got a couple times in the back. And I was standing there watching the whole thing happen. I pulled out my feedback, which is it's like it fires tear gas, but it's got the power of a 12-gauge shotgun. That'd do a lot of damage. Anyway, I stopped the stabbing, and they took my picture because we had to go to court to give this guy another life. You know, he was already doing life, so we had to give him another life. Like that was going to change it. They stopped the stabbing, so it didn't work. But anyway, this is K-Wing. This is where I worked, in the part of the institution I worked. And you have to be very careful in K-Wing because everybody in there was in there for murder. It was just a very dangerous, very thankless job. And you can put the next one up.
How was he able to stab through the bars? Wasn't the other guy getting back in his cell?
No, everybody came out.
Oh.
And he had his back, he was shutting his door, and he had his back to the guy got up and boom, right a couple times in the back. But this is all my buddies, all my prison guard buddies. That's me right there, back in the day. And we still get together once a year, all my buddies here. We have they're all retired now, we're all retired, so I just missed it. This is the first year I missed the reunion. And,
So Richard, they all know what you did after being.
yeah, but we were real good friends.
How do you like that?
I left the prison to go sell drugs. Okay, I never brought any drugs into the institution. I never did anything like that. So I quit being a correctional officer and I left to deal with drugs. And that's going to be the next part of the story. You can bring up the family again. The very first one. Yeah, that one. Okay, now, the way I got involved in the family business is my brother, Alfredo, he went to make a drug deal. And he was meeting this guy in the parking lot of a shopping center. And when he got there, he got out of his car and started walking to where the guy was. And he said he saw fear in the guy's eyes. So he said, I got the stuff in the car, I'll be right back. So he went back to the car and he jumped in and he took off, followed by a line of police cars. And he drove into a gas station, ran out, went into the bathroom, and he had an ounce of coke that he was going to show the guy. And he flushed it down the toilet just as the cops were kicking in the door. Anyway, they arrested my brother and they took him to jail. But they had to let him go because he got rid of the evidence. And then I heard about what happened, so I went to see my brother. I was living in Modesto, and he was living in San Jose. And I said, listen, it's called Freddie. I said, listen, Freddie, if you ever read about a drug bust, you'll always read after a 3-month investigation, after a 6-month investigation, after a year investigation, after a 2-year investigation, whatever it takes. Once the cops know you're dealing, that's it. You're going to prison. You better get out now, brother, because I work in a prison, and trust me, you do not want to go to prison. Anyway, I came home. A couple days later, my cousin Simon, who was the head of the family, he came to see me at my home there in Modesto. And he agreed with me that my brother had to get out because the cops were on to him. And he said, but he's got nobody to take his place. And then he asked me how much money was I making. Well, I was a sergeant for the Department of Corrections, and I was bringing home $1,500 a month, which was a lot of money back in the 70s. My house payment was $88 a month. And my car payment was $72 a month. So that's what money was worth something. So I was, in my, because of my profession, I was considered rich, because I mean, everything was, I could afford everything, and my wife didn't have to work. But I was making $1,500. I was proud of that. And he said, I'll give you $2,000 a day and plus commission. And man, $2,000 a day, I was always good at math. And I knew that it would take me 5 years putting my life on the line at DBI to make what I can make in 1 month working for my cousin. So I said, okay, cousin, I'll do it. But I want two conditions. Number one, I'm going to come in right under you. And we get to do it my way because, you know, I work in a prison and I'm not going to prison. And he said, okay, we'll do it your way. Well, you know, working at a prison, because it was such a dangerous job, most of the officers only stayed there long enough to get to another law enforcement agency where they wanted to be. They would go to high patrols, city PDs, you know, paroles, or some other law enforcement, DEA, or just other law enforcement agencies, just to get out of the prison. So, and on my days off, I would go on ride-alongs with all these guys. You know, we'd go kicking indoors and doing a lot of fun cop stuff, you know, and it was a lot of fun. But anyway, I learned what they had to have, what the police had to have to arrest you. So now that I was on the other end, I used all this knowledge to keep myself from going to prison. You know, the way they bust you in a drug deal is this. You give them the money, they give you the drugs, bam, they take a picture of you, and they come with handcuffs, and that's it. You're in prison. So to get away from that, what I did was I went to the Bay Area. This is where I only dealt with 8 guys. The family was divided in 2 parts. I ran the pure side. If you bought drugs from me, you bought a pure, uncut kilo of heroin or a pure, uncut kilo of cocaine. My cousin, he was over me, but he ran the street side, what we sold on the streets. And on the streets, what we did was we would take 5 kilos at a time, and we would cut each kilo and make 8 kilos of ready for the street heroin. We would cut it to 8s, and then we would fill it with a high protein powder called Lactapoo. And this was ready for the street. We have, my cousin had about 20 girls working for him, and their job was to sift all this heroin and put it into balloons for our street people that were going to sell the heroin on the streets. Thanks, Pastor. And so after we finished cutting all 5, we would have 40 kilos of ready for the street heroin. Now, my cousin would take these kilos and give them to these girls. They would sift them all. Each kilo made so many balloons. And my cousin would go around picking up all these balloons, and he would sell them to somebody, would sell them to somebody, would sell them to somebody until they got down to the street. When all of them got down to the street, each one would make us $250,000. So we had $10 million by the time all 40 kilos hit the street. And now myself, I ran the pure side. So what I did, there was 8 guys that I doubt, these were all businessmen in the Bay Area. I met with them one time. I said, this is the only time we're gonna meet. I went and rented about almost 10, 15 lockers, but I gave each one of the lockers a girl's name. And I assigned 3 lockers to each one of these guys. You know, some had the same locker, but just so that they knew they had these 3 lockers that they had to go to. They all had the same combination lock on them. And I rented a small office, and I hired this girl that was going to college. And her job was just to take phone orders. Now, I told her I was in the cigarette and beer business. And these guys were to call her. And then they would go through the list of beer. If they wanted heroin, there was a beer called Falstaff. So however many cases of Falstaff beer they wanted, that's how many kilos of heroin they wanted. And if they wanted cocaine, they would go down a list of cigarettes, telling them, I want 10 cartons of Marlboros, 10 cartons of Winston's, 5 cartons of this. And when they got to Cools, however many cartons of Cool cigarettes they wanted, that's how many kilos of cocaine they wanted. Now, I would call my secretary every day from a phone booth in Modesto. I never used my phone. And I would ask her if I got any phone calls. She said, yeah, Terry called, and Jim called, and he wants this. And I knew, I was just waiting for Falstaff beer. Okay, Jim wants 2 kilos of heroin, and he wants, 2 kilos of Coke. And so I knew what he wanted. And I would drive from Modesto to the Bay Area. And I would put the dope out first. And then I would call this guy who placed the order. And in the course of the conversation, say, hey, Bill, what's happening? Hey, when are we going to get together and play some golf, man? Oh, hey, I seen Mary. She said to say hi to you. Yeah, okay, thanks. And we hang up. Mary was the locker where he was to go and put the money. The dope was already out there in another locker, but he was to go and put the money. And he ordered 2 kilos of, we paid $27,000 for a kilo of heroin, and we sold it for $57,000. We paid $11,000 for a kilo of cocaine, and we sold it for $40,000. So if he ordered 2 kilos of heroin, he had to have $114,000 cash. It was all cash. There was no credit. It was all done in cash, and the bills were to be in stacks of 100, 120s, 110s, 105s, whatever he had, 100 hundreds, and that was easier to count. Anyway, he had to have $114,000 in that locker named Mary. Now, if he wanted cocaine, he had to have another $80,000 in that locker named Mary for the cocaine. So he had to have $114,000, for that was his order. And comes up to what, 280, yeah, whatever it is. But anyway, he had all the money in there, and I would go and I would pick up all the money first. I'd rent a motel, pay cash, and I would count all the money, make sure it was all there, and then I'd call him back. And I said, hey, just talking like we're old friends, and say, hey man, let's do lunch when you get a chance. What time do you get off? Okay. Hey, listen, can you bring your secretary? Jill. Okay, now Jill was the locker where his dope was. I already had the money, so now he wanted to know where his dope was. There was never any of this, But Jill was in the locker where he would send somebody to go pick up his dope, and he had it. And this is the way it worked. Now, when I met him the first time, I gave him the list of everything that was going to happen, how he was to do it, and I told him, this is the only time we are ever going to meet. If you ever call me and tell me you want to meet this other guy over here, I'm going to send somebody to kill you. You take care of your business. I don't want to meet anybody, because that's how you get busted. They're bringing in other people. So this is how I ran the business, and it was great. Business is great. I had a guy in Nevada. He was my man. I mean, he was moving more coke. I could barely keep up with the guy. He was just moving all kinds of kilos. We were making money hand over fist in it. And every time Muhammad Ali was fighting or George Foreman, my cousin would rent us a Learjet and we'd fly to Las Vegas and just have a big old party. And I mean, back then, when the Mafia had it, it was really cool. Everybody wore suits. We wore tuxedos, and we would go on this one place. We'd play baccarat, and that was the rich man's game. And it was like an all-glass room, and people would be gawking at you. Ooh, yeah, out here, But it was, the Bible says that sin is fun for a season, and it was. I mean, it was a lot of fun. And anyway, the way I got out of this was one day there was a knock at my door. And I answered the door, and it was my neighbor from down the street. And he was inviting me to a home Bible study at another neighbor's house. And I said, man, to me it was stupid. This guy hasn't invited me to a Bible study? You got your nerve, man. And I was going to slam the door in his face, and I started thinking, man, if I slam the door in this guy's face, he's going to go next door, and he's going to get that neighbor to go to the Bible study. And next week, I want to have 2 Christians knocking at my door. I said, no, we're going to nip this in the bud. And I knew that I knew more than these people because I had a college degree that said I knew everything. There was no arguing with me because I knew a little bit about everything, just enough to talk my way through everything. But anyway, so I said, okay, I'll be there. I'll be at this Bible study. So I went to this Bible study, and there was about 10 people there. And I said, man, you know what? This is going to be nothing, because I went there to tell these guys, hey, look, there is no God, because I was an atheist. When I was raised Catholic, that's not fair to the Catholic Church. I was a Christian. That's a Christmas and Easter Catholic. I'm the guy that would go to church every Christmas and Easter, and I would make that guy who came all year wait in the foyer, because I took his seat, because those are the big days in the Catholic religion, it's Christmas and Easter. So I was always there at Christmas. Didn't understand anything what I was doing in there, but I went anyway because that was the thing to do. And I sent all my girls to even though when I was in college I became an atheist. I no longer believed in God, but I believed in like I sent my girls to catechism because I wanted them to have good morals, you know, and so I didn't believe in God, but I wanted my girls to have good morals. And anyway, when I went to this Bible study, you know, they were over there praying and saying all kinds of stuff, and then they knew that I wasn't saved. They had set me up. There was a guy named Gary Buss and Bill Booth, and Gary would ask Bill a question, why do I need God? You know, and I'm listening, and Bill said, well, it says here in the Bible that all men have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And then he said, well, if I go to church, why do I even have to go to church? Well, it says over here that, you know, do not suffer not to get together with one another, you know. And he said, well, why can't I just give money? Why do I have to go? So then you go to a piece of, well, it says here now you're trying to buy your salvation. He said, well, why can't I just go paint a church or cut the grass or something? I said, well, now you're trying to earn your salvation. And salvation cannot be bought and it cannot be earned. Salvation is a gift from God. You either accept the gift or you refuse it. Never in my life have I ever heard that. Now, when I was in college, I got all hung up on flying saucers. Flying saucers were my God. I could explain how mankind got here, you know, with these outer spacemen coming, mixing their sperm with the monkeys, and then, you know, this is how all the different nationalities came about. And I believed this. I was preaching this.
You taught you that in college?
Reading books. I read everything Larry Von Berkeley ever wrote. And
Weird stuff.
yeah, it is. No, I became an atheist. They told me that you know, there was no God, that I was God. You know, I created my own surroundings, everything in my life. It was my responsibilities. It wasn't because there was a God that I was beholden to. But anyway, I'm at this Bible study and I'm hearing all this stuff. And like I said, I never heard anything like this. And then I hear Satan screaming in my ear, tell about your flying saucer, tell about your flying saucers. Okay, Satan. I said, Gary, what about flying saucers? He said, well, I don't know about flying saucers, but people say they see them all the time. But I do know that it's important for us to know about flying saucers, that God would have it in his Bible. I said, I got it. That morning, my 9-year-old daughter came to me and she said, Dad, when were the continents formed? I said, oh, you know, so I went to my college back, you know, billions of years ago, you know, we have volcanoes and earthquakes every day, you know. The earth was heating and cooling, and it would create steam, the steam would fall down, and it would hit the hot earth and go back up, and steam would keep coming back and forth, and it would start creating the oceans. The ocean started spreading the land apart because it was cracking from all these earthquakes, and how the rocks in South America matched the rocks in Africa. So we know at one time it was one big continent, and just on and on and on. And my daughter, she said, oh, my daddy knows everything. I almost broke my arm trying to pat myself on the back. As far as that's how it happened. That's how I learned it, you know, in college. And so that's what happened. So I asked Gary, I said, Gary, it was important for my daughter to know when the continents were formed. So when were they formed? And he said, oh, you know what? I just read that this morning. It's in Genesis 10:25. Now you can read Genesis 10:25, and it won't say a thing to you. All it says is the leg was born when the land was divided. But my birthday is October 25th. And when Gary said, oh, that's in Genesis 10:25, the whole room emptied out. And I was in this white room, and there was this cloud right in the middle of the room. And the cloud said, Richard, you're going to come to me today, where you're going to die in your sin, and you're going to spend eternity in hell. And I knew it was God, and that he was talking to me. And I knew what he meant when he said that I was going to die. Because we had police officers that we would pay for information. And one of these police officers told us that a guy by the name of Joe Morgan, who was the head of the Mexican Mafia from Southern California, had come up north, and he brought a bunch of soldiers with him. And then another police officer told us that the Bonanno family, Joseph Bonanno, had moved into Northern California. I said, what? The Bonannos were the head of New York mafia gang there, and they owned a lot of Las Vegas. What the heck do the Bonannos want here, you know? And so I was wearing a bulletproof vest, I'm packing 2 guns. Everywhere I go, I'm looking over my shoulder, you know, and I'm crying out, you know, how do I get out of this mess? What can I do to, because, you know, I didn't want to die. Because these guys, you know, gangsters do not have to read you your rights. You know, they just walk up to you and plug you, you know. And so I wasn't afraid of the cops. I was afraid of these other, because you don't know who they are. You know, it could be somebody coming in, TV repairman, and say, hey, come and look at your TV. Yeah, come on in. Boom, 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 you know. And that's it. And then they disappear. So I had all this fear in me, you know. I had all this money, had everything money could buy, but I had all this fear. I could never enjoy it. And so I knew what God meant when He said that I was going to die. And this was my way out, you know, because I was asking for a way out of this. When I came back into the room and all the people came back, I knew something had happened to me and that I was never going to be the same again. And I excused myself and I went home. And I knew what I had to do, you know, that I heard enough to know that I had to confess Christ, to ask Him to forgive me of all of my sin. But on the way home, I was wheeling and dealing with God. Because you see, one of the ways you get arrested is by having the big house, the maids, all the fancy cars, the big swimming pool, everything, you know, and no means of support. Well, the cops know, oh, this guy's dealing, you know. And so I owned a liquor store, I owned a car wash, I owned a record store, and I owned a disco, like I said. You know, you're not really a gangster unless you have your own nightclub. So I saw that in the movie one time. So I had my own nightclub, and I had, if the cops ever looked at me, well, hey, he owns this, he owns that. Well, sure, he's got the big house, but he owns all these businesses. But I was not a businessman. I didn't own these businesses to make money. It was my front. I would run my money through there, you know, and so that I could have all this stuff. So I was wheeling and dealing with God on the way home. I said, God, I know you're going to take everything, because everything I had was illegally obtained. I said, but you can have everything. You can have all my business, but please, God, please don't take my family from me. And please, if you can't, you know, leave me my house. But if you want my house, you can have that. Because I had a big house, and I had a bunch of kids, so I needed a big house. I said, please, just don't take my family in my house. Anyway, it took God 8 months to break me. I lost all my businesses, and I was glad to see Him go, because I knew that I was applying for jobs, because I knew I had to go to work for a living now. But I knew I wasn't going to get a job until God had all my money. And it took God 8 months to break me. And in August of 1988, I said, okay, God, I made my last house payment. I said, God, you got it all. Now give me a job, I'll do anything. So I get a call from the city of Modesto, and it was a job to, you paint the white lines down the middle of the road, and it's nighttime. Now, the Mexican community in Modesto knew who I was. They would invite me to different, and I was baptizing more babies than you could shake a stick at. I mean, I had no idea who these people were, but they would get my wife and say, we want you to be compadres to our daughter, you know, blah, blah. And all they wanted was to drop my name. Say, you know, yo soy compadre con Ricardo Berlanga, you know, just to drop my name is all they wanted. But I did it because it kept the wife happy. But I had no idea who these people were. One time I was invited to this wedding to look at this band. I was going to buy this band. And as soon as I walked in, the band member, he recognized, hi, I've been at Don Ricardo Berlanga, you know. Ooh, because I had a little entourage with me. They put me the best table there, you know, at the head of the table there. And the wedding couple, the ones that just got married, I didn't know who they are. They come up to me and want me to bless their marriage. I said, oh my God, you're the biggest crook in the world, and they want me to bless their marriage. You know, I wonder how long that marriage lasted. And you know, you gotta say something in Latin, so all I could say was "E pluribus unum." That's all I knew. You know? So, and anyway, the Mexican community in Modesto knew who I was. And I was thinking to myself, hey, this is great. I go out at night and paint the white lines down the road, you know. People ask me, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm an artist, man. I see my work all over town, you know. And then I started thinking about it. I said, no, there's no way I'm going to get this job because it's not humbling. I went there and sure enough, I didn't get the job. About a week later, I get another call from the city of Modesto. This time it's to go to work at Garden and Refuge. What the heck is Garden and Refuge? So I was going to this Christian church every time, and one of the guys worked for the city, and I said, hey, what is Garden and Refuge? I got to go for an interview. He says, don't go. That's the worst job in the city. You got this 2.5-ton dump truck, and back then people would cut their grass, or their hedges and their bushes, and they'd put everything out in the street, and you'd go by this 2.5-ton dump truck with a pitchfork, and you're out there. And it was in August when I got the job, and it was 110 in the shade. So half the grass goes in the truck, and the other half falls on you, and you're all sweaty, and you're sticky, you got all this grass on you. And as soon as he was telling me, describing the job, I don't even have to go for the interview, and I got this job. And sure enough, I got that job. But I was out there, I was learning all these new songs. In moments like this, I lift up my hands to you, just going down the street. And these people, you know, because I have to go on the Mexican side of town too, and they seem, oh my God, what's the Ricardo doing out there? He's going to rob the city. You know, because I had that reputation, you know, as a gangster and as a killer. I had put out 3 contracts. I had 3 different people killed, you know, because there's a law in this country that says that if there's no witness to the crime, then the crime never happened. So you just get rid of witnesses. We had one guy who was going to testify against one of our street people that he had bought some drugs off of him. So we hired this guy to kill him. And the guy dressed up like a woman. He went into the bar where this guy hung out. And he walked up to the guy, pulled out his gun, and he pulled the rib cage and pulled the trigger, and the gun misfired. And he pulled the trigger again, the gun misfired again, the guy jumps off his stool and runs out to the police department and says, I am not testifying against anybody. So we shut him up. That's all he wanted to do. Another guy, he would go up to one of our street people, and he'd buy some drugs from him and says, he pulled whip out a gun and says, where'd you get the drugs? You know, who'd you buy it from? And he would tell him, so he killed him so he couldn't warn the other guy. Then he'd go to the other guy. And the same thing, he'd buy some drugs from him and said, where did you get the drugs? And so he would tell him that he killed him. And what he was doing, he was working his way up to us. So we had to kill him. So we had a guy come out there to kill him. But the police arrested him before I got to kill him for killing these other 2 people. And then a third guy was stealing from one of my clients. So as a favor, I said, I'll take care of this guy for you. Just tell me where he lives, you know. So I gave the guy $50,000 to go and kill him. Before my guy could kill him, the police arrested him for some other crime. You know, so I have no murders on my conscience. You know, God was looking after me even then. He was looking after me. Anyway, well, here I am. I'm working for the city, doing this, and I love being a Christian. I couldn't stop singing. I was learning all of these new songs. I got to teach them. Because, you know, back then you sang the same song over and over, and you get to learn it, and it was really great. And then my daughter, I was working about 3 months for them, and then my daughter came home from school, and she was in the 6th grade, and she was going to junior high school. And she said, Daddy, please don't let me go to this junior high school. All the kids are here at school in the 6th grade practicing how they're going to smoke dope in the bathroom. And I said, oh, Lord, please. Because working for the city of Modesto, well, from there, from Garden Refuge, I got promoted after 3 months. I went to the water department. And in the water department, I had my own truck, I had my own boat. I'd go out and test the water. It was a great job. Like I said, I had my own office, I had a telephone, I had nobody to call but my wife. You know, so I talked to her whenever. But Anyway, after about a year is when my daughter was going to the 7th grade. She said, Daddy, please, I don't want to go to this junior high school. So I prayed and I said, God, I got to do something. I got to make more money. Because I was only making $7 an hour working for the city, which is a lot of money. Still money back then, because everybody was making $10 an hour. And then so I applied to take to the post office. I took the test, and because I'm a disabled veteran, I got 10 extra points. So I scored an 89.9 on the written, and with my 10 points gave me 99.9, put me to the front of the list. And I was the next one hired. I took the test like on a Friday, and Monday they called me to go to work. So I left the city and I got a $3 raise. It was $10 an hour, but all the overtime in the world. I was making more money than the postmaster because I had all these kids, and I was able to send my daughter to a Christian school, and then I was making so much money I sent all my kids to Christian school, because I didn't want to have this problem with the drugs, in the schools. And working for the post office was really a great job. I never turned down overtime. I would come in from the streets, my 8 hours were over, and this guy would be fighting with one of the supervisors. I'm not taking this, because they were called bailouts, where you take an hour off of somebody who has too much mail. And he said, I don't want to do this. I would just pick it up. I get it, don't worry. And I would just take it, and all the bosses were really impressed with me, because I never said no to them. I said, Brian, can you take this too out here? Just give it here, and I'll go. Because I had all these mouths to feed, and I had all my kids in Christian school. I told God, when I got hired at the post office, Jesus, I'm going to work for you. I've never argued with any of my supervisors. And when I retired, the supervisors just praised me and said, man, we wish everybody could be this way. We never had an argument with this guy. He always, no matter what was, how much work was there, I would work 12-hour days. Now, I made $85,000 a year, which was more than the postmaster was making, so he was kind of mad at me, And then when I finally retired, I didn't use any of my vacation time, any of my sick time. I had 10 months sick time. So I used up all my sick time. I got the VA did surgery on my left foot, and they had to remove 4 of my toes because when I was in the Army, I fell out of this truck fooling around, and I landed on my feet and smashed both my metatarsals. Anyway, they had to amputate 4 toes on my left foot, and I had to retire from the post office. But my last check was almost $7,000 because I had I said, oh, this is great. I was teasing all my buddies, this is what you get for 40-hour work week, where you really apply yourself. But God, through it all, always took care of me. Now, I never even smoked a joint in my life. When I was growing up, my mom, he was a little boy, she'd tell me, don't you hang around with any of those marijuanos. I had no idea what a marijuana was, but I knew I wasn't supposed to hang around with them. When I was 17 years old, I was at this park, and this guy was playing basketball. I said, hey, honey, you want to play? Yeah, I'll get in here. He said, hey, you want some of this joint? I said, what's that? He said, this is marijuana. I said, you're the guy that my mama warned me about. And I never even smoked a joint. I never took any coke. I never took no drugs at all. When I was in the service, I was the lookout. Because when you're in combat, you want to be alert. Because you don't know when you're going to get hit. The BC would come at any time. So I was always the lookout. Because when I got to Vietnam, I said, I'm coming home alive. I'm not going to mess around. You saw these guys get killed all the time. They're messing around all the time. But I was serious, I was coming home. Anyway, I never took any drugs. My brother, Alfredo, he died of a drug overdose because he was getting the drugs for free. And, drugs do not give life. Drugs take lives. Drugs killed my brother, and they will kill you. When I was dealing drugs, the biggest thing was, people would die of too much heroin, because guys were cutting it, they didn't know how to cut it. If you got some bad heroin, you would die. Today, the drug of choice is meth. Well, these guys that are making this meth, they're not chemists. They have no idea what they're doing. 99.9% don't even have a high school diploma. And when they make this stuff, they say, hey, well, then, let's give it to somebody here and let's see what happens. Well, you are the let's see what happens. Last year, we had 47,000 let's see what happens. And that number keeps climbing because you have no idea what you put in your body when you start taking drugs. No idea at all, especially today. We had everything controlled, we had everything measured, so we knew exactly. When my family got arrested, and I'll tell you about that in a second, but when they got arrested, the drug addicts were dying by the hundreds because they were taking anything off the street. When they arrested my family, all our drugs were off the street. And they was taking anything they could get their hands on, and they were just dropping like flies. But the way my family got arrested was, it was about I was out of the family, I don't know, a year, 2 years, something like that. And my cousin, Simon, called me. And he said, hey, Rico, let's go do some, let's have lunch. So I met my cousin for lunch. And he said, I got this $50 million deal coming down, one-shot deal. If you help me, I'll give you $5 million. I said, hold it right there, cuz. Unless you tell me, the less I can testify to. I don't want to know nothing about what's coming down. 3 months later, my whole family got arrested. And the way they got arrested is, my cousin was a really intelligent guy. He had a lot of friends. What he did, he made this $50 million deal. The drugs were coming in to San Francisco Airport. He had all the guys on the ground, waved the plane on through customs. And he had the customs agents, he had all the trucks, he had people that were going to unload the plane into the trucks. Had all the drivers for the trucks. And all he needed was a pilot to bring in this airplane. And it was a jet airplane, so he had to have jet pilots. And anyway, this guy said, I know a couple of pilots. Well, these 2 pilots were DEA agents. And they came into the family, and they took names, and they arrested all of my family. And they all went to prison. And can you put the picture back up with my cousins? That's number 1. See, the Bible says that sin is fun for a season, and believe me, it was a lot of fun. But it also says that you will reap what you sow. My brother Alfredo died of a drug overdose in 1979. My cousin Simon spent more than 20 years in prison, and he died in prison. My cousin Charlie here, he got cancer in prison, and they released him, but he died as soon as he got out of the streets. My cousin Ricky here, he escaped from prison, ran to Mexico, and he was killed in Mexico. And my cousin Carlos here, he just died last April, but not before I got to talk to him about Jesus. And you know, like I said, the only reason I'm here is because I said no to my cousin on this $5 million. And that was the price tag that Satan had placed on my soul, was $5 million. And because I refused it, I'm here today to tell you my story. And to tell you that drugs they don't fix anything. They don't get rid of your problems. They cause more problems. And eventually, 1 of 3 things are going to happen to you. You'll die in a drug deal gone bad. I just had one of my ex-neighbors, his son was killed in a drug deal gone bad. Number 2, you'll die of a drug overdose or taking bad drugs. Or number 3, you'll spend the rest of your life in and out of jail. That's your future. You can't get a job because you can't pass the P test. And so you're going to have to rob. You're going to have to steal. Meth is the worst thing you can take because you only take it one time and you're hooked. It does something to your brain that it just keeps calling you back, and you have to keep having more and more and more. And it will eventually kill you. Very few people get out of it. You know, it's hard. I had a son who was a meth addict, and all he did was steal from me. I threw him out of the house. He got arrested. went to prison. He came out of prison. He begged his wife to take him back, and he came and found me. He said, "Dad, I'm so sorry for everything that I did to you." I said, "You know what? I don't care about all that stuff that you stole from me. I don't care about it. I've got my son back." And me and him are best buddies. We go to the Giant games, we go to 49er games. He's my son again, and he is a success. When I worked at the prison, we had a saying: out the gate by 8, in the spoon by noon, and on the run by 1. Because we had a 95% return rate. Of all the convicts over there, 95% of them were going to come back. Because I'd be working in a reception center with all these new convicts coming in. And one would say, "I remember you. You were just an officer when I was here." I said, "Well, what'd you do? You missed the coffee? Or what? Why are you back here?" But they committed some other crime. But drugs do not, drugs are a choice. You can choose to do drugs or you can choose not to. Life is a choice. Everybody's here today because you chose to be here. You're wearing what you're wearing because you chose, this is what I'm going to wear today. But there's only one choice you'll ever make that matters. And that's, where do you want to spend eternity? Because nobody decides that but you. God does not send anybody to hell. He's made a way. There's only one way. I wish I could stand here and say, "Oh, all you got to do is be a good person." But I would be lying, because hell is full of good people. There's only one way. The Bible says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. Period. That's it. There's only one way. And that's why the Christian church is so hated around the world. Because we will not say, "Oh, well, you can do this and that's okay," or "You can do that." We have lines as Christians that we just do not cross. Marriage is between a man and a woman. You do never cross that line. Life begins at conception. You never cross that line. There's only one way to salvation: Jesus Christ. You never cross that line. And all I can say is that if there's anybody here who is not serving God, and you know who you are, because right now, I have a professional demon that Satan has assigned to me. Every time I talk to somebody about God, his job is to get in your head and say, "Hey, oh man, this guy's going to have an altar call, and what are my friends going to think if I step forward?" Well, you know what? If they say anything that's not positive, they are not your friends. And when I got out of the drug business, and when I became a Christian, first thing that came to my life, oh man, I told Bill, the guy that led me to the Lord, I said, "What am I going to do with my friends?" He said, I have to cut them loose. He said, "Oh, you don't have to cut them loose. When they find out you're a Christian, they're going to cut you loose." and that was the best thing that happened to me, because the people that I was hanging with were really no good. They weren't a good influence on me, And the day that when I came home from that Bible study, I was in my bedroom, and I knew I was going to confess Christ, and I said, "Jesus, come into my heart, forgive me of all of my sins." And when I prayed that sinner's prayer, I'm Hispanic, and Hispanics are raised that, number one, you never cry, and number two, you never say "I love you," because they're signs of weakness. So as a man, I never cried. I never told my kids or my wife that I loved them. That day, when I confessed Christ as my Savior, I couldn't. It's like the dam busted from my eyes. I just started crying and crying. My wife ran in the bedroom. "What's wrong? What's wrong?" For the first time, I could take her in my arms and say, "I love you, honey. I'm so sorry for what I put you through." And my kids, I could finally hold them and tell them that I loved them. And that day, I became a husband and a father, and I never looked back. But you know what? Life, when I got out of the drug business, my wife had everything. No matter what she had more friends than you could shake a stick at, because they all wanted to get that free lunch. Let's go to lunch, but she would pay for everything, So she had lots of friends. When I got out of the drug business, when I became a Christian, had to work for a living, well, her lifestyle changed. So she changed, and I could see it coming. And anyway, she ended up divorcing me, but it was really, I couldn't understand, God, how could this happen? Because things happen when you're a Christian. And the Bible says that no matter what happens in your life, you have to count it as a joy. I said, "Lord, how can this be joy? You know, I was married for 24 years, had an umpteen number of kids. And I said, how can this be a joy? And anyway, my buddy was supposed to be here today, Johnny, but he had a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so he couldn't come. But I mean, the way, what happened in my life was the way I got through this. I didn't want to hate my wife because we had all these kids together. And so me and Johnny, I met him at church, and we became real good friends because he was going through a divorce. And we were both, when you go through a divorce, you get all this rage in you, you know. So I didn't want to hate my wife because we had all these kids together. I never talked bad about my wife to the kids. But I would get this rage and I'd start praying, God help me, God help me. You know, take this. And I lost my joy. I had no joy. But I knew that the only chance I had was God. And we were going to this big church, Calvary Temple there in Modesto. And they had something going every single night. So me and John said, well, you know what? Let's just, every time the door's open, we're going to be there. So we would go to the Women's Aglow, Addicts Anonymous, you know, and just, you name it, we were there, you know. And we didn't care what it was. We were at the singles groups, we were at marriage in the family group, and just everything you could think of, we were there, you know. And we were praising God, and we started laughing again, you know. We started joining, like every time I was at singles, I'd say, you know, like in the Army, you would say, you know, 2 o'clock, what's it going to 2 o'clock? Okay, it's like the roof's a big clock, and I told Johnny, 12 o'clock is straight ahead, 3 o'clock is over here, 6 o'clock is behind me, 9 o'clock is over there, and we were at the singles group, and I said, check out 10 o'clock. Oh yeah, man, I'll go 3 o'clock. Just checking out all the girls there in the singles, you know? And just, we just started laughing again, started getting our joy back, and it was just, you know, I remember the day that I got my joy back, you know. It took 9 years of praying every day, because I knew I didn't have my joy, you know. And after this, you know, I never drank. I never had a drinking problem, but I did have a cigarette problem, you know. And I thought, well, if I start smoking, I'll get rid of this problem. You know, here I am stuck with the habit now, you know, and I had to pray, God, get rid of this cigarette habit. I don't want the cigarette habit. So what God do? He gave me pneumonia. And I got rid of it. So you gotta be real careful what you pray for. You know, but you know what? It took that cigarette habit from me, and I haven't touched it since.
Amen.
And it took 9 years. I remember I was at work, all of a sudden, bam! It was like, I got my joy back. I was so happy, you know, I was just so happy. And it just, everything started taking off for me in my life, you know. And it was because I had a best friend, Johnny. He was going through the same thing. And it took him a lot. As a matter of fact, he owns this cabin up here where I'm staying. And I stayed here for his cabin for 7 months while I was waiting to have my surgery. And this lady here prayed for me, and I got my healing, so I didn't need surgery. And now I'm living in Oklahoma, and it's really a blessed life. And God is really taking care of me. You know, I make over $3,000 a month for my retirement, and I live for free. I have a $100 phone bill, you know, with my internet, and I have a $77 insurance to bury me, so I don't want to put that on my kids. And the rest of it is my money, so I go anywhere in the world. And I went to Europe, I went to Virginia, I go anywhere God calls me, I go, and I don't depend on that church to support me. You know, God's given me. If they pay me, fine. If they don't, I don't. This last church I was at, I wouldn't even take the money. You know, I just loved what He was doing at His church. You know, so He paid me. I said, no, man, I'm tying this back to you. You know, God takes care of me. I don't really need this money. But that's the bad. You know, I've been a millionaire. I've had it all, and that's not where it's at. It's not in the money. You know, because you can have all this money. I have all this money. I'm looking over my shoulder. One time I went to this restaurant, and you always got to keep an eye on that front door. Even though when Debbie goes to lunch, I said, I got to watch that front door, Debbie. I'm sorry. Her back's to the door, and I'm watching that front door. But I went to one restaurant one time, and I told this waitress, I said, you know, I proposed to my wife at that table back there, and she just died a couple of months ago. And can I have that table where those two people are sitting? I said, here's $100. Give them $100 to if they would move, and here's $100 for you. oh, I should take that money. You guys are out of here, you know. And I would get that table facing the door, you know, 'cause that's all I cared about was protecting my back, you know. And but this is the life that you live when you're in this underworld, you know, this other world here. And the best thing that happened to me was getting out of that lifestyle. And so many people are hooked on money because I was making big bucks, you know. I'll probably never make that kind of money again, you know. But you know, illegal money, it just goes through your fingers. I was in Las Vegas putting down $10,000 bets. Who does that in their right mind? I mean, you know, but when the money means nothing to you because you're going to have another $100,000 coming in tomorrow, you know, so it didn't really matter. But it was a different lifestyle, and there is no lifestyle. I've never been happier in my life than when I gave my life to Christ, and I've been serving Him ever since. I never looked back. I mean, things happen in my life, things are going to happen in your life. And you just have, it's how you deal with it. If you blame God, well, you're in trouble. Because God does not put you in those positions. You put yourself in those positions, you know. If I hadn't started making all this money, if my wife didn't have all this money that she could throw around, and then all of a sudden she doesn't have it anymore, well, you know what? You know, that's why I lost her, because I got greedy. And I did all this stuff, but you know, but God, He just gave me a new love, and God, I just love serving God. I love talking about Him. When I meet somebody, the first thing I say, "Where do you go to church?" You know, and, oh, I don't go. You don't go to church? What's up with that, man? You know, and just start talking to them about God. But it's real easy to do once you start doing it. But like I said, Satan has assigned personal demon for me, because he knows I'm going to be talking about God. And that demon right away attacks. He attacks, especially the youth. He'll attack you and say, oh man, you can't come to God. What are you going to do with that joint you got in the top dresser drawer? What are you going to do with that bottle you got hidden in the closet? You got to drink that. Come on, man. You know, you can always come to God. Well, that's his job. His job is to destroy you. He's read the Bible. He knows there's a place for him, and he knows that all his followers are going to go to that place. And today, when you leave here, everybody's going to choose where they want to spend eternity. And you do not have to say, God, Satan, I want to serve you. All you have to say is, not say, Jesus, come into my heart. That's all you. If you don't say that, you're doomed to hell. There's no other way of putting it. You know, people, the Mormons are the best people in the world. But you know what? They all condemn themselves to hell because they will not confess Christ as their Savior. You know, all these false religions. I had a radio program, I had a TV program, and I would preach on false churches and false religions, and I would preach on all kinds of stuff. But because I can talk to the Jehovah's Witness, and I can take them to the Bible, and I can show them where they're wrong. But I haven't converted one yet, but I planted the seed. It doesn't matter for me if I convert them or not. The idea is planting the seed. And that's all it is for me, is planting the seed. And if they come across it, that's fine right there, you know. But I don't take any glory in it. I led 30 teenagers to the Lord. And when I was a year, my God, I couldn't sleep for 3 days. That never happened to me, you know. It's always been one-on-one. But 30 teenagers, I was so on fire for God. I praised Him for 3 days without sleeping. I just couldn't stop praising Him because I love Him so much, and I love what I'm doing. I love that He's opening doors for me now. And I love being here. This is my home. I love preaching here. I love all you guys.